First of all, I want to look at the validity of these leaks before we dive into what they are. And that really starts with Season 7. Season 7 was completely spoiled by a plot leak, and it detailed every key plot point in big detail. And it seems like the same thing is happening this season. Plot leaks have come out and they've been proven right episode by episode, and now we're left with just one more episode. So it makes these leaks look very valid. But one thing I will say is HBO and the producers of the show recorded multiple endings and maybe written multiple endings to try and make sure that spoilers don't happen. So playing devil's advocate, it is possible that we're getting one ending out of many, and it could be misleading. But to be honest, everything in this plot leak seems to be right. It makes sense in many aspects, so I have no question to really doubt this leak, because it got right what happened in episode 4 and 5. They knew Daenerys would be attacked by Euron Greyjoy's fleet, that he would kill Rhaegal and take Missandei hostage. They also knew that Cersei would kill Missandei. On top of that, they got right Varys' plotline. How Sansa told Tyrion about Jon being a Targaryen, and Tyrion told Varys, and then Varys tried to betray Daenerys, and then she killed him. They got Jaime's storyline right, where he betrays the North. Brienne convinces him to stay, and he leaves and gets captured by Daenerys. And then they got everything right for episode 5. Tyrion convinced Daenerys to show mercy, and she didn't. She assaulted King's Landing, and basically burned everything to the ground. The plot leak also said that Tyrion would free Jaime to rescue Cersei, that they would die in rubble, that the Hound fights his brother, and they both die fighting to the death, that Jaime ends up fighting Euron and gets mortally wounded, and the episode would end with King's Landing being basically rubble. So up to this point, everything about the plot leak has been right. And these are the key points that they're saying will happen next episode. For one, they're saying Daenerys will have Tyrion arrested for freeing Jaime. And this plot point, I don't see any reason to doubt at all. It was foreshadowed last episode, when Daenerys told Tyrion that this is the last time that she will fail him.
The next time you fail me will be the last time you fail me.
And Tyrion clearly did fail her. And I think Tyrion will go through a lot in this episode, because he now disagrees with everything that Daenerys has done. Everything that he's counseled her not to do. She's become the tyrant that she was trying to destroy. And I'm sure at this point, Tyrion doesn't want to support Daenerys. So in the plot leak, it also says that Tyrion will try and convince Jon that his family will never be safe, because his lineage makes him a threat to Daenerys' rule. And this is also a very common plot point that makes sense. Daenerys is upset with Jon because she feels that Jon betrayed her. On top of that, she also knows that Jon has the love of the people, something at this point she will never have. We saw her last episode choose that she is going to rule by fear. That's the only way she can successfully rule the Seven Kingdoms. And at this point, Daenerys has many of her council that have betrayed her. And in her mind, that also includes Jon. So Daenerys wanting to deal with Jon makes sense. He's her biggest adversary when it comes to claiming the throne, and he also betrayed her. So it makes sense that Jon's life would be at stake. But then it goes into Jon's story. It says that Jon tries to talk to Daenerys, and she justifies her actions. And this has been built up over the last couple episodes. We've seen Daenerys get more and more delusional. The fact that she's here to rid the world of tyrants. And her doing whatever is necessary to achieve that, to her, in her mind, is justified. So I think this episode, and based on the preview trailer of the episode, we're going to see Daenerys in a different light in this episode. It's going to be a stark contrast to the world that she wanted to build. And now that Daenerys has taken the throne, she's going to do everything she can to keep it. She's going to justify her actions. She's going to turn against the people who betrayed her. But then after all that, we'll see the fall of Daenerys. It says here that Jon will pledge himself to Daenerys, but then he'll stab her. And personally, I love this plotline. It makes sense. It should not be Arya to kill Daenerys, it should be Jon. These characters have built up a relationship and a respect for each other. But more importantly, I like what it means for Jon's character. The cornerstone of Jon's character is his honor. He prides himself on his honor. He does whatever it takes to do what is right. His word means everything to him, and he will betray that word. He will pledge himself to Daenerys only to kill her. So Jon not only betrayed Daenerys, he betrayed himself and everything he stood for. And that sounds like a prophecy Melisandre has said in the past.
I have seen myself walk along the battlements of Winterfell. I have seen the flayed man banners lowered to the ground. But sometimes sacrifices must be made to ensure victory.
This war has just begun. It will last for years. Thousands will die at your command. You will betray the man serving you. You will betray your family. You will betray everything you once held dear. And it will all be worth it. Because you are the son of fire. You are the warrior of light. You will sweep aside this pretender and that one. You will be king.
Jon betrayed everything he held dear because he supported Daenerys as his queen. That resulted in him in some aspects betraying his family. And then it pushed him to the point to betraying the one that he loves, and he had to betray himself to do that. So it says after Jon kills Daenerys, he's going to surrender himself. And that sounds like something Jon would do. He'll probably be beside himself for betraying himself and Daenerys, and he will feel like he needs to pay the consequences for it. But then after that, a council gets formed, and they're trying to decide who the new king should be. Jon at this point has renounced it. He doesn't want it, and he's surrendered himself. It says here that Tyrion gives a speech and everyone votes on Bran Stark becoming king, and that's the end. And this is the one aspect I hope doesn't happen. Spending 8 seasons watching a show called The Game of Thrones to watch a secondary character who's been misused for the last 2 seasons isn't the most satisfying ending, especially since this character hasn't even been in all of the seasons. On top of that, I don't like what Bran being king represents. I love the idea of them breaking the wheel, having a new leader and building a new world. And I guess a part of that comes with Bran, electing him to be king, more of a democracy. But Bran has made it clear that he could never rule, and he's not a king. He mostly lives in the past. And I understand that living in the past lets you learn to build a better future. I just think Bran would be better utilized as a council member and not a king. Because he's not a king and there's never been any plot to suggest that he's been a king. So I think a lot of people will be very upset about that. I know I am. And then that takes us into the epilogue. It'll probably flash to a couple months or a year in the future. It says that Jon will take the black for killing Daenerys. And I don't know how I feel about this. The Night King in this show has been defeated. So I feel like taking the black at this point is pretty much useless. And I honestly would have liked a better end to Jon Snow. In my opinion, he's a character that would have been the perfect king. His whole 8 seasons has been him bringing people together. And that's something that Westeros needs at this point. And I get that Jon would, I guess, want to take the black to punish himself for his actions. But this is also very selfish of him. It would be stupid for Jon to take the black, when he could either go north of the Wall with Tormund and live out his days happy, or he could stay in King's Landing and be king, because I feel like that aligns more with Jon's character. And that's the tragedy of Jon Snow, is that his life is always other people's. He comes in to fix everyone's mistakes at the sacrifice of his own enjoyment and his own life. I feel like Jon as a character would take the throne as honor, because it's demanded of him and the people want him. So him taking the black I think is very disappointing. But then you have Arya, and they only say that she leaves. And if Arya survives this episode, that makes sense. Arya said, what is west of Westeros? She's not a lady, and she's clearly a character that would want to explore and live her life on her terms. It also says that Sansa will rule the north, and that makes sense. She's always had their best interests. And that's Sansa's overall story arc. She was obsessed with the life in King's Landing, and then she realized what she lost. You know, her family, the north. And she's come full circle to be queen of it. So I like the end of Sansa's story. But then we go to King's Landing and Bran oversees his council of Tyrion, Davos, Sam, and Bronn. And I'm still not happy about Bran being king, because he's not a leader. Bran should be a part of the council. And maybe he should replace Bronn, because I don't think Bronn should be a part of the council at all. I think the way they treated Bronn in this season was a huge disappointment, and it undermined his character. So if they want to build a better world, why would they have a man like that sitting on the council? Unless they're playing that political game. They gave Bronn Highgarden and he has a seat on the council. But based on how they treated Bronn in this season, it doesn't make sense for him to sit on the council, because that's not building a better world. So what is the point? So those are the plot leaks that have been released. I have to say I'm a little nervous, mainly just over Jon Snow's story and who will sit on the Iron Throne. I'm really confident Daenerys will die, and the only question is, who will sit on the throne? And that's the Game of Thrones. But I honestly feel like with this ending and Bran being king, it undermines the last 8 seasons of storytelling. The fact that we went through the War of the Five Kings, the fight for the dead, the fight against Cersei, all of this drama, and Daenerys' conquest and takeover of King's Landing, just to have some weird, random, underused, and undervalued character sit the throne doesn't make any sense. So that's my opinion on these leaks. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.